Yeah, just a short one today, fellas. I'm trying 6.5 because it's, you know, the sun's coming out and got to wear a hat now. And total failures on these ones, as you can see. Something. Then I tried this. It's got the foam at the top, as you can probably see, and it was a partial success. And then I tried this, but I think the sand grains are too large. I've been complaining about the sand, you know, not being able to get the normal sand we can get since the pandemic was invoked, sort of thing. So it doesn't seem to affect the moss, though. You can see the moss. So I may have to put it in another bucket with no hole in the bottom. And yeah, this one's probably got the right size hole in there. I don't know, you can see that or not, if it's focusing away. Anyway, back to had a bit of trouble with this one over here. Look at that. And some of these seedlings are having trouble too. I've had this in the past, sort of. Whereas the ones over here, very green seedlings, okay, and there's nothing wrong with the papyrus. Yep, tomato ones are sort of going. I think they're going to produce some leaves, but as the White Sox Sarah guys say, you know, if you can grow a tomato plant, you can grow CPs, but never really explain what that really means. What's so special about a tomato plant and its relation to CPs? Anyway, I tried flooded, and yeah, lo and behold, it seems to be working. So I don't know. And everything seems to be my serosine seems to be dividing there, so it's going to split into two, which makes the things a little bit awkward. Got a Kuiper daisy flowering there. It's only a small one, but I don't know, put my hand behind it, will that make it focus better for you? I don't know. Anyway, this one's still plugging out a leaf. They're all flooded, of course, these ones, as I said. So anyway, everything seems to be pushing me back towards copper again. So there I am, saying, well, if that's what the science is telling me, I've got to go back to copper. I don't know, and try it flooded. That could be the problem. I may have to do it flooded, but anyway, we'll see if we can. So back to copper again, because as you say, copper is the highest micronutrient found in peat and other peat-related humuses. So, you know, and the only thing you seem to be able to germinate seeds on reasonably well is peat, or you start them on sphagnum and move them over to peat, sort of thing, you know. Like with filiformis, they say, well, Donnie used to say, start them on sphagnum and then transfer them to peat and sand, because it's all peat and perlite these days. But I just thought I could make this a short one. And this one, you probably want to see this one. Still chugging along. Put it on the spot colour for you. Yeah, they're putting out the leaves. I don't know. They're not dying, but they are slow growing. But it is sort of flooded, so we've got some rain coming, half a week of rain coming, starting tomorrow sometime. So, you know, probably the last big rain. I might try and get out to one last trip out for the season. Be the last one. It might be a devastating video if you haven't seen what's happened out there from the bushfires we had earlier this season. Oh, yes. Anyway, so you probably want to see that in here too. Yeah, I don't know. As I said, the idea is to go back to trying to prevent the cyanophyta from growing, sort of thing. Sort of, if we prevent the cyanophyta from growing, do we prevent that as a food source for nematodes in the soil, and then does that automatically promote moss and liverworts to grow in the soil, sort of thing? So, yeah. Anyway, so the monocoque grass seems to be growing quite well. You know, the winter ryegrass. And hang on, let's go to spot colour. No problem with those with any deficiency, so that's good. There, so that's something. Oh yes, these ones starting to make a comeback. So there is something going on there, and I think we're going to figure it out fairly shortly now. You can see, they're starting to make a move. So we'll see how we go. This one over here and the fluffed up one. So yeah, but that's about it. I might try some more on top of these, depending on how that one over there goes. But that's about it for this season, I think, really, of experiments. Just keep an eye on this one. It's sort of like, it's almost like they're growing on nothing, sort of. There's got to be more to it than that. So, I mean, if this one is successful, then I think we've got the link. They finally got the link. Yeah, you got to have it flooded for a start, which is why they're bog plants. I think that will tell us why they're bog plants, and it almost might tell us why you can only easily germinate the seeds on peat and sand. Basically, there's not much else you can germinate CP seeds on with a certain degree of certainty. With a degree of certainty. Oh yeah, this one. As I said, yeah, they're starting to make a move now, once they've got the roots down sort of thing. But as I said, I think the Sinophyta is a negative. You've got to try and view setting up the pot to oppose the Sinophyta sort of thing, because as I said, it almost looks like when you put these in the flooded ones with the Sinophyta, the plants almost seem to be ripped apart in about 3 days. If you put the dandelion related weed, what's it got, the false dandelion, this thing here, we got it on spot on here, this thing here, the false dandelion, and it seems to go through. It can have nice, smooth, glabrous leaves, and then you can have these ones with the sort of not pitting, but the opposite of pitting on it sort of thing, and they can become quite prominent too. Same plant, it's not that it's a different strain or something like that. It's the same plant, so it's quite amazing the genetics in a false dandelion, basically. But yes, if you put it on some of this stuff, they can be ripped apart, whereas the cypress isn't. It can actually grow on that sort of thing. So there are major differences between, well, dicots and monocots sort of thing with this sort of soil. But anyway, I just thought I'd give you a quick update. So I'm still pushing ahead, and I'm getting to something. I don't know what it is, but yeah. And so some of this stuff, the water looks almost like it's going to go into tannins. The so-called CP tannins in the soil. Am I still on the spot, Karen? Yeah. You can see that some of the water there on the surface almost looks like it's going to develop into CP tannins. So there you go. I mean, tick another box, I reckon. Don't know what's going to happen with that one. But we'll see. Anyway, I'll set it up. I'll get it to this sort of stage, and we'll see what happened. It might be a total dead loss, but as I said, everything seems to be pushing me. Everything just keeps niggling me and pushing me back towards copper. And yet, copper is the highest micronutrient found in peat, sphagnum peat, and other peat-related humuses, or humuses, I suppose. So there's got to be something there. There's got to be something really important. Whether the copper acts as like an some sort of antifungal in a way, but from my experience, copper promotes penicillium in the soil. And you get penicillium before you get generic australis, and once you get generic australis in the soil, it's like a generic mycorrhizal fungus in the soil, everything goes tickety-boo from then on. So it's sort of saying that you probably do require copper, and the fact that it's the highest micronutrient in peat, it just sort of, you're scratching your head and everyone says it's so deadly. It does seem to be so deadly. So there's obviously a major crossroads point somewhere there, how you take it from being so poisonous, or you don't understand how it operates or how it works or something like that. So anyway, we'll see how we go. But I just thought I'd give you this quick one and say, I've done as much as I can for this season. We've learnt basically You can have them growing in flooded, but it has to be a white wood, because a white wood doesn't interact with iron too much to form the oxysulfide. You obviously don't want the oxysulfide. And that sort of implies that maybe when you put the charcoal down the bottom of the pot, it has some iron in it or something, and it probably forms the oxysulfide. You can test that yourselves, I think. So, but when you have charcoal on the surface and you have a bucket with a small slit in it, and you do the double flush, charcoal on the top isn't a problem, but it takes about 6 months to get going, and then it almost seems to be slightly better than peat, but it takes a long time to get going. We tried we've tried newspaper cellulose, we've tried coir, we've tried peat on the surface with a double flush. They all seem to work. They almost as good as peat. The newspaper cellulose seems to have too much rag cotton in it, so it's got the gamma bond, so it's hard to break down. It's not as good as having wood shaving. But then the problem with wood shaving is you got all those voids you got to fill up, sort of thing. That's why we're using the newspaper cellulose rag cotton to fill those voids up, and it seems to work. It's not the best. I think I'm trying to go just, as I said, just to sand and a bit of formula sort of thing, and see if we can do it that way. Seems to be working when it's flooded. I don't know whether that's because the sand is the wrong size. As I said, I've had terrible trouble being consistent with the sand. It went fairly wonky when we first got into the pandemic. It's got a little bit better, and I don't know. It's not as good as what we used to have. So I dug up some old stuff, and I'm using that. So at least I know it's the same grain size. So we'll see how we go. Anyway. So next season, so at the beginning of the season, we'll be sandmongering for some better sand, I think, or more consistent sand because I said my local sandmongerer has, it's gone out of business. Well, they closed shop basically, and the whole place has become a landscaping zone for about a new Macca's, a new this, and a new, I don't know, some sort of there's about 4 new things that are going to be on that great big parcel of land sort of thing, where that where my sandmongerer, you just punch in sandmongerer, put sandmongerer, ER and a mong in there, and all my past trips to the sandmongerer should pop up. You may even get some from Sloan's, I don't know, the old Sloan's, which we did Sloan's, which were around at the time of Keogh's, but back then they had paper bags, whereas Keogh's had plastic ones, and you could put your plastic bags out in the rain for a season and not have any problems, whereas the Sloan's ones, they had paper bags and you couldn't put them outside, so you had to store them somewhere in a shed. No, it didn't work. So everyone went for a Keogh's. Keogh's was better too. They also had Poly-X, and they had K140. Of course, K140 was the one that Donnie introduced me to, I think it was, because it was a K140, 140 micron spike sand. So it's very fine. Never had any problems with K140. Of course, unfortunately, Keogh's moved back into state to their home state of Victoria, sort of thing, which is unfortunate. So you can still get K140 or Poly-X, but you're going to have to order a truckload. And it's even harder during a pandemic, isn't it? And you've got border shutdowns. You don't really want truckies coming across the border because they could, introduce COVID into our state, sort of thing. So, we've got all these problems. Business moving back, pandemics, all this sort of thing, and we're still trying to plug ahead and move forward. But we have made progress. You can grow them in flooded buckets, but the key salient point seems to be you got to have a white wood. Oh yes, balsa wood, yes. Let's put it back to spot culling. Oh, we are on spot culling. So tried the balsa wood, quite interesting. Put some plants in there. Gets rained upon. I put this because when you first wetten it up, it tends to want to float. So I used to just put that down on there to hold it down, sort of thing. But it doesn't have to be there now, sort of thing. And I don't know. Gave it a bit of a go. Some of this colour on there is very interesting when you compare it to some of the colour on this. Maybe that's why we've been somewhat successful out there. Whether we're going to move forward, but as I said, with most of this stuff, it always seems to be one step forward, two steps back, or two steps forward, one step back. You never seem to me, and it always seems to be the wrong way around. All the breakthroughs seem to be circumstantial or serendipity sort of thing. Anything done with a theory, the next step done with a theory always seems to be the wrong way around. So implying you're on the, it's like you want to get into supersonic flight, and the only way to get into supersonic flight is to put the ailerons in the wrong direction. So if you develop a theory, if the theory says you should go there, success is always over there. I've had this experience for many, many years. It always seems like there's something majorly skew with arse up or back to front or something like that. So, yeah. So, well, we found one of the major things. You can actually grow them in flooded, but you've got to have a whitewood, basically. And having shavings, as I said, you've got all those interstices between the shavings to fill up sort of thing. We've tried cotton wool. Unfortunately, cotton wool's got the gamma bond, very slow to break down. Not the same as whitewood. The whitewood is the heartwood, and if you've noticed this, if you look at all your photographs of sundews and things like that, growing on logs in the wild, they either grow on the log where the bark has fallen off, so they're directly on the log, on the heartwood of the log, or they're on moss that's growing on the heartwood of the log, or the bark is completely gone from the log and they're just growing on the heartwood of the original log sort of thing. So that sorts out your brown rot and your white rot fungi for you, which ones are probably involved. So they used to go for the opposites, of course. The white rot fungi attacks the whitewood and leaves the lignin, and the brown rot fungi, is it round? I can't remember which way around. It does the opposite. It attacks the lignin and leaves the whitewood. So if we've got them growing on the whitewood of the log, it implies you've got a brown rot fungi. Is that what it is? So maybe the plants are actually living off the lignin, so via the fungi. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see what happens. But this was pretty surprising. But it does seem to have to be flooded. But that could be because the sand is crap. It's the wrong size sand. You can't. If I had finer sand, it would work, sort of thing. So anyway, we'll see what happens. But even got this thing growing there, which is amazing. So anyway, that's somewhat like a bog succulent. I think I remember seeing something like that growing at Carrington Swamp when I was a kid, a child, not a baby goat, over in Western Australia. But anyway, that's about it for now. Over and out. See you, and we'll see you on the other side of the next one, I suppose. If we get any success from that, well, I don't think we're going to have to wait too long for that one. If it's as good or better than this one. But the past always says this is going to be a negative, because we're taking the logical conclusion to that one. And as I said, it's always like this. So that's probably going to be a total failure. So, because we're sort of using sort of like a theory to move into that, and be surprised if it works. But then again, everything's saying I ought to try it. You wouldn't want to get that close to the answer and stop, would you? Okay, over and out. See ya.